So basically, the one we have seen earlier is more like a utility function, but the one we are writing now is more like your application specific utility. So this is to do with determining whether a particular user is eligible to access an API or not. So let's get started. So let's say that export constant determine okay determine okay check if access allowed. So it needs two inputs. One is the user object, another is the action object. So let's say user object will contain name, which is not important here, but it will have permissions. Each permissions is an array, and each permission will have object name and allowed operations. Allowed op. Okay, so allowed op can be either view or manage. Okay, and similarly it will have action type, action object, which will have object name, which is current access, and method can be get, put, post, delete. So with these two objects in place, we need to find out whether this current user is eligible to access this particular action or not. Let's get started. So user object. So first let's extract constant permissions equals to user object dot permissions. Okay. So based on the current action, we need to first find out whether this particular user has this action object in his permissions list or not. So permissions dot find item dot object name equals to action object dot object name. So constant current permission constant permission equals to, okay, if no permission, return false. Otherwise, let's proceed further. So if you see, if a user has a allowed ops as allowed operation as manage, he can do any of the operations. So let's check if, okay, let's extract constant allowed op equals to permission dot allowed operation. If allowed op equals to manage, by default everything is allowed, so return true. Otherwise, return action object dot method equals to, so since it is not a manage, it should be view, so which means that only get is allowed. So that's all. So I have not handled any error cases, but let's do this once we run the test cases. So this is a simple functionality. We are passing on user object and action object. Our function have to determine whether this user is allowed to perform certain action. Let's write test case for this. So since we already have a group, we can group it. We can have one more test case here to test what is the functionality. Determine check if access allowed. So check if access allowed next. Then test input user. We have to define the user object here, and the test input action, which is the action object. Then test output, whether true or false. Let's say true. So result equals to check if access allowed. Test input user. Test input action. Yep. So let's define the user object. Name is irrelevant here, so I'm not defining name. Permissions, it's an array. First permission, object name, user, allowed operation, view. Okay. So similarly, we have another object for him. Device, let's say, and manage. So if I say the current object name is user, and the action is method name, right? Method, and method is put, let's say. So what should be the output here? Output should be false, because for the user object he is allowed only to view. Let's check it out. npm run test. He has passed. Similarly, is input. Yeah, he has. Okay. So user should fail. It failed because expected is true, but it is written false. So our expected output was wrong. This way, it is very difficult to test this kind of functionality during the runtime, because you can be having 20 or 30 API calls, and there can be different combinations of user permissions. So all you do when you develop your code is to increase the number of test cases for all the combinations. You can even extract this test input and output outside and just change the values inside these each iterations. and write as many number of test cases as possible based on the current requirements of the functionality, and you can test all of them before even checking in your code. This way you are very sure that your functionality doesn't break at all. Thanks for watching. In next video we will look at more deeper functionalities of Jest, like mocking external calls, mocking DB calls, and things like that.